Hey folks, welcome into the BN Cubs podcast. I'm Brett Taylor. That's Michael Cerami. We're here to talk Cubs, like the New World Order. Cubs.
Wait, you got to start over. I tipped my hat like an absolute internet dweeb.
Now this is staying in. It's
Oh
because
God,
that's like
I hated that I did that.
That's like the first rule of podcasting / video / whatever is if you call out the stupid thing that you did, you guarantee that it's staying in. So Addison,
I did like the Milady meme. I don't know why.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's terrible.
So yeah, this is definitely staying in. Thank you, Addison, in advance for clipping this and sharing it with folks. All right. Other than Michael's old-timey introduction, we are here to talk Cubs. Big week for the Cubs. Obviously, started with a tremendous Saturday night that I definitely didn't miss any of because I had been exhausted and fell asleep. That didn't happen. The Cubs, of course, signed Alex Bregman this weekend, concurrent with, oh yeah, now I've screwed up. This is a disaster. All right, let's start it again. No, of course, was leading into saying thank you to our sponsor, Ankin Law, 3126 million injury law made personal. That is how you start a podcast. Okay. Whew. All right. You know what? It's been a week. Listen, this is okay. It's been a busy, exciting week. And we are justifiably out of sorts. In fact, we had to punt this podcast from yesterday, Thursday, to today, Friday, because yesterday it was IFA day. We knew the Bregman press conference was happening. Ended up being some additional stuff in the evening that we'll get into. But
which was also teased. People were like expecting.
Yeah, people knew it was kind of coming yesterday. So Cubs signed Alex Bregman, obviously, this weekend. Rumored for a very long time. We knew the interest was sincere because there was the interest last year, but I don't know that we knew it was like on the doorstep of happening when all of a sudden Jeff Passan drops the report concurrent with the Bears pulling off or starting to pull off an incredible comeback over the Packers. A night that people will talk about forever.
Wait, so that actually, since people seem to like my little bit of background stuff last week, which was our most listened to podcast so far, by the way.
Hey, thanks, folks. Glad you came back to hear us butchering the first 2 minutes of this.
Yeah, absolutely fumbling the bag.
Like, this is more usually what it's like.
It's a lot more like this. I did get the pair of eyeballs emoji texted to me at like, what time was the game? It was like 7:00 games. The Bears game was 7. The thing came out at like 10. I think it was about 5 p.m.
It was about 5. Yeah.
I get eyeballs emoji. Oh yeah. Cause I texted you and it was from a very, like a source that I used to talk to a lot in the past and someone that tends to not have information about the Cubs. So I was like, I wonder what this is about. I was like, maybe X team is signing Y player. No response. And then when it happened and it hit, I got the follow up like, see, I told you type of thing. And I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't know anything. I'm not taking credit for anything. Getting an eyeball text emoji that's not what a source is. But that person definitely knew. And that was very exciting. But I put it out of my brain entirely because of the Bears game.
Sure.
And have we not spoken since this happened? Like it was Saturday,
on the
right?
pod or like chatting with each other?
No, on the pod.
No, because it was like 2 days after the last pod.
Wow. And you said, I don't want to call you out, but you fell asleep right before this.
I've like been weighing, do I reveal, this is the kind of thing you share on the pod, but not, I'll never write this in public, but yeah, like, so the Passan tweet came out at 10:46 p.m. my time, which of course is not that late. Okay. So hand up, but we'd had a very busy Saturday. Our youngest is not sleeping very well right now. She's getting up super early. So I was out of sorts and I sat down and I'm watching the Bears game. And when the, that fumble happened, so they're down 21-6, that fumble happened that they should have obviously recovered and they kicked it out of bounds. Inside, I said to myself, I'm like, F this. And so I saw it kind of laid back and I fell asleep. And it was literally 1 minute. I went back and checked 1 minute before Passan dropped the Bregman. So if I had stayed awake one more minute, I would have seen that. That would have kicked me awake, and I would have seen the Bears come back. Yeah, that's right. I missed both of those things.
So for what it's worth, so I'm watching it downstairs and with my wife Danielle, and I see the passing thing, and it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's one of those things where like your brain reads it before your body. I was like, because I saw the number too, and I was like, this has to be one of those fake passing accounts. Like, what is happening? And I was like, right now, like this is happening right now. So I sprint upstairs, I start writing, and then and I did it pretty fast because I wanted to still watch the Bears game, even though it was bad. And I was going, well, I mean, at least, they're down 18 or whatever it was. It's like, what am I missing? I guess, but I still typed it up really fast, and I go downstairs and the Bears are down, I think 3. And my wife, bless her soul, isn't like, she's all excited about she bought a Bears sweatshirt yesterday. Like she's, jumping on the bandwagon. Also thinks Ben Johnson is very attractive, and I don't appreciate that.
But he's handsome. He's handsome.
He is.
When I tear off my shirt, that's how I would like to look.
I just don't appreciate the giggles after he's good looking.
I can't help myself, Michael. Yeah. That's how I talk.
So I'm like, what happened? And she's like a lot. Like, I was like, okay, thanks for that. And so I'm furiously catching up on the Bears game while updating the Bregman post, because it was like, what the hell? And so I caught up on all the highlights on the Bears stuff, mostly because I follow Bleacher Nation Bears on Twitter and they are on top of it. Followed all that, got the Bregman stuff out. And then I was like, they came back and I was like, that was the most incredible 30 minutes that I remember. I don't want to like rehash this because people have already lived this for a week, but like, oh my God, what a night Saturday was. And the Bregman signing was no small part of it.
All right, so we are going to get back to the Bregman signing in a moment. Cubs, of course, had the introductory press conference yesterday. We'll talk about that. But I want to use another thing that happened as a vehicle to discuss the Cubs opting for Alex Bregman, and that is finally the official departure of Kyle Tucker, who signed late last night with the Los Angeles Dodgers, 4 years, $240 million. Commentary on that. No surprise there's deferred money in it, but it's not quite as much as I thought it was going to be.
Not as much at all.
Yeah, it's 30 million, so it's down to about 57 AAV. So it's still a new record annual by a lot over the Juan Soto deal. His is, what is his 51. Like actual 51? Okay, and Shohei is I think 47.
So I don't think this is it's a real nuanced discussion because Soto got 14 years.
700, yeah, something like that.
So, it's hard because none of the money's deferred, but like, let's say they sign him to a 20-year contract. Is any of that deferred?
Right. It's still sort of the same deal, right? Yeah.
Sort of, except for you don't have to lock away that money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. But when you're 26, I guess it's more fair to count that as just a deal. It's just because you're going to age 40, but like,
so
feels a little deferred.
Yeah. So let's talk about the fact that, so Kyle Tucker, as we all as fans know from watching him and from, of course, discussing him at length before he came to the Cubs, very good player for a very long time. Okay. Underrated, sort of quiet. Is he the type of player you would have expected to obliterate the annual value record? And of course, I'm gonna answer my own question because I have a real question for you thereafter, which is, of course, the answer is no. Of course not. That's silly. So, and yet we know he, according to Jeff Passan, could have gotten 10 plus years from the Blue Jays and presumably a guarantee in the 350 to 400 million range. Okay.
At least over 300.
At least over 300. He could have gotten a bigger, definite, this is your money for your life thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the real suitors at the finish line seem to be the Mets and the Dodgers, and both had instead prepared 4-year offers with 2-year opt-outs, I think after the second and third year, with these gargantuan AAVs. 29-year-old player. It is not typical that a superstar caliber 29-year-old player hitting free agency prefers an explicitly short-term early opt-out type deal when the alternative is there for a as expected super long deal. And I'm wondering, is that meaningful at all? Does it mean anything? Does it tell us anything? Or
Well,
is it like, oh, this is maybe the way some things are going?
no, I don't think so. And here's why. Um, it's because of the opt-outs. If this was an opt-out free deal, I'd say, well, we need to think about it. But because of the opt-outs, good on the Dodgers for pushing it to year 2. But Tucker didn't have, if he had a normal walk, if there were opt-outs, or if he had a normal walk year.
Yeah, to clarify,
so
you think this is one of those situations where it's like he wants the ability to hit the market again in 2 years and make more money?
Yeah, and I think there's, now that I if I were writing this, I wouldn't be so scattershot. There's 3 things. There's a new CBA coming after this year. There's going to be league confidence and security and certainty over the rules and the financial, picture moving forward. 1, 2. He did not have a good walk year. I mean, he obviously contributed a lot to the Cubs and was a gigantic driver of the reason that they made the playoffs. Like, I'm not trying to, shit on his performance this year. That's not my point, but it obviously was not the year he was hoping for. And now it's 2 years in a row with significant absences due to injury. And 3, there are opt-outs in the deal, and he's still a young player. He's only turning 29 tomorrow. So all of those factors, tomorrow. So all of those factors combined, is it really that crazy for him to think that because he's getting literally historic AAV on top of everything, he'll get 2 years and 114 million and then get the chance to opt out. So his next contract at age 31 only needs to be a $200 million contract or so to probably match whatever he was going to get from the Blue Jays. And you know what I'm saying? And then even if that first year doesn't get him there, he has another chance at it after he makes another 57 million. So like, to me, the way that this deal looks is like so substantial. If it was 4 years and 40 million, like 160 million, I'd be like, what happened? Like, he's getting an absurd amount of money and he's getting the chance. Like, worst case scenario, he gets 4,240 or what equates to 4,220 or something, like, whatever the math adds up to be. I don't think he gave up anything, and I don't think it means anything other than this is my best shot at maximizing money.
Yeah, I take all those points, and I don't even necessarily disagree with them. I would just say 2 things. Strictly speaking, he did risk losing something, because if he breaks next year or the next year and the next year, and then he gets his 220 plus million, but he doesn't get 300, 400, whatever million that he could have guaranteed him through this process. Setting that aside, what's curious to me, and I think it's answered by the gargantuan AAV, is we used to see not that long ago, in situations like this, where you had a star player who didn't have to take, short term. So this isn't like a Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman last year situation. They used to get their super long deal and get early opt-outs. Okay. Or relatively early opt-outs, 4 years ish. We have seen that many, many times. And I don't think anyone was giving Kyle Tucker that deal.
Who knows though? The Blue Jays might've had 10 years, 300 million. And that's my point. I mean, I think you said it yourself. He probably was going to come nowhere close to the sort of AAV he's getting, which also think about the time value of money in reverse, getting that much money now.
Sure. I believe he's getting like something like a $57 million signing bonus, like a check.
That's crazy.
And that also matters. Like,
oh, for sure. It for sure matters. I want to talk about a couple things though, too. One, the Dodgers payroll is now over 400 million. Their luxury tax is approaching it. It's like 398. Their actual is 412.
Yeah.
Which,
and then add in the 110% tax.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to get. They basically paid double for this. And, okay. Sometimes whenever I see you tweet about like being a coward for joining with the Dodgers or something, I can't put my finger on it, but I'm like 10% off of what you're saying.
That's fine. You're 90% with me.
I am. Right. And for Kyle Tucker specifically, I wrote it last night. I don't think it's a mistake. I think this is a guy. I mean, God, it is so freeing. Like you said, another tweet, to just be able to say anything. The dude doesn't have like that sort of it factor, right? Whatever that is, he does not have it. And so being able to hide behind name 10 stars on the Dodgers, including the biggest one, Shohei Ohtani, makes sense to me. I think he would have been eaten alive in New York City.
Even with Juan Soto there to
100%.
And Francisco Lindor.
Yes. And on the Yankees, even with Judge, I think the New York media would have, hey, we are Chicago. We are the nice city relative to the other ones.
Do you remember he got booed at what you remember that Pirates ground ball?
You know how hard it is that doesn't happen here. We're listen, Philadelphia,
I was going to say, this isn't Philadelphia.
New York. I'm sorry, but we are generally pretty nice to our players. And that did not go well. He would have had a miserable time in New York. I don't know why I feel so reluctant to speak my true feelings about this. I feel like I'm not alone in this. Right? I mean, this is...
No, like I said last night, listen, you and I talked about it on this podcast, okay? And the season we talked about what, I forget the discussion exactly, but it was basically what did we feel about the year of Kyle Tucker? And did we ever really connect? Did he have, he had a signature moment against the Diamondbacks in April. And then after that, name one moment where it was Kyle Tucker. Yeah. One single moment. Can you name one? I can't. And it's
yeah, I can. When he was benched against the Brewers.
Well, yes. And the meatball fastball that he missed.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, to me, I actually think it's fair game to speaking of meatball, to put on my meatball hat and say,
I know, why?
When you're talking about a star player that you're going to pay $57 million a year or whatever, there has to be more than just at the end of the year, you look at his numbers and you're like, oh, those are pretty good. That's a pretty good player. There just has to be more than that.
Yeah. And I don't think it's even, I think it's, I want to go full circle. You know how you start meatball, you get all the way around and all of a sudden you're actually making a legitimate point again. Here's a legitimate point.
It's the horseshoe theory of meatball sports fan.
Right. So yes, there has to be something more, because let's say the Cubs gave Kyle Tucker some big contract. Let's say he's performing well, but is still just absolutely not connecting in any meaningful way. If he's not generating the sort of buzz that drives ticket sales or jersey sales or concessions or spring training or marquee subscriptions, season ticket, whatever, then the return on that investment is going to be lower, which can impact the Cubs payroll long-term, which can impact their ability to get other players. If he's not magnetic to other free agents and people don't want to play with him, or not with him, but they're not attracted to his team, that can affect things for a team like the Cubs, who are more calculated about the way they spend. So I don't think it's nothing, none of which is to say you don't want Kyle Tucker on your team. I think there's a very, very, very strong likelihood that he's one of the best hitters in baseball next year. It's true. And I don't even think that any of this would have been Alex Bregman's not going to be as good as Kyle Tucker, but also they traded for Edward Cabrera. They signed Alex Bregman, and I'm like, okay, bye Tucker. That's how I feel.
We were kind of buy Tucker as soon as the season ended. It was
I know, but if the Cubs did nothing and then Kyle Tucker signed a 4-year deal, I'd be like, what the, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but I suppose I think back to right after the Cubs traded for him last year, all the discourse through January, February, March, April, especially right to then was can they get him to fall in love with Chicago, to fall in love with the Cubs, and get the fans to fall in love with him? And then it's just this perfect marriage, and they, sign long-term, da, da, da. That discourse turned dramatically by
Crazy.
August.
Yep.
And it was sort of like, there was no longer an interest among the fans en masse in like selling him on like, oh, can they figure out a way? It was just sort of more like well, let's see what his market is. And talk about
there's barely
enormous
that.
difference when Cody Bellinger, when they had him for that first year, and the way fans desperately wanted him back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear the front office, coaching staff, that they really wanted him back. It isn't to say that Bellinger or Bregman, like you said, are a better, more valuable player than Kyle Tucker. But to some extent, and this, maybe we can use this to segue back into the Bregman thing. You are building a team. You are building an entertainment product. You are trying to, it isn't, other than the Dodgers, I think, because the Mets proved this multiple times. You aren't just stockpiling big players, where you spend as much money as you can and you stockpile good players and you're going to win games just because of that. I don't know that that's exclusively why the Dodgers win. I think that's a big part of it.
Actually, look at the Dodgers and the Mets. The Dodgers win and the Mets don't.
Yeah.
Maybe there's, what's this next layer down?
I guess last point on the Dodgers I just want to make, because it's a side conversation. It's a whole other conversation that's going to be all over the dang place all year in advance of the CBA, because the Dodgers really did just put their thumb in every other team's eye with this one. Mm-hmm. It's true and correct to say that most MLB teams are owned by very rich dudes who can spend more money on that team and that product for their fans. That's true. It is overstating the fact considerably to say that any club can do precisely what the Dodgers have done, because it's simply not accurate. Like, imagine this. Like, if you and I were playing chess, okay, and we're competing, and some people are interested in watching us play chess, and we've set up the board, and there's a vendor next to the board, and he's like, now, just so you guys know, before you start, you can buy an extra queen for $1,000. And, I don't know if it's true for you and me. Say I'm playing Steve Cohen, okay? And Steve Cohen is like, oh, okay, sure, give me 10 extra queens. And I'm like, $1,000? I mean, like,
and then the chess league gives you 10 extra pawns to make up for the fact that you can't afford.
And it's like, yes, can I afford to buy the extra queen? I can. It is true. But this is Steve Cohen, or that's the Guggenheim Group, or whatever. They, it's not the same. And so,
to say nothing of the fact that let's to prolong your analogy or your metaphor, there's also, let's say you versus Steve in that chess match, and Steve's got a TV deal that pays him 5 times what your TV deal pays.
Yeah.
Like, even just internal revenue.
It sends him 5 rooks every year.
Yeah.
And
so, and on top of everything, I saw a tweet, and I hate when I do this because I don't remember who sent it. But it was a good point. And it was like, if you are outbidding, I'm ruining it. Steve Cohen was the effect. If you're outbidding Steve Cohen, like, routinely, maybe there is something materially different, because he's a billionaire to the extreme, like one of the true top, and has a giant ego and clearly loves to spend on his team. And the Dodgers are still outbidding him.
Yeah.
So, but I also think the Dodgers, I think a couple things. I think they know that there's a reckoning coming in the next CBA. It's going to change, and they're going, well, this is our last chance to take that advantage. So let's do it. And they are. And I also I hate when people say, it's like, it's great. It's cool that it would be great to be a fan of the Dodgers. The Cubs should spend as much money, but it's like, you also have to be realistic about what's going on. Like, they're an outlier, and it's like the Cubs should be spending like the Phillies or even the Blue Jays, maybe. Okay. But to pretend like they're like, it's even moderately reasonable for them to spend like the Dodgers is insincere, I think, to reality.
It ignores reality.
it ignores reality. And so that's why it sucks. Now, flip side of all this, do you think, I think this sometimes I go, good, put all the good,
Yeah.
then it's just one team you have to worry about. Like how
And
you can only go ahead, win 112 games. It's still going to come down to a 5-game or 7-game playoff.
Yep.
Like it does not matter because we're not in their division. It doesn't matter.
I would hate if this is a whole different conversation. If I'm a Diamondbacks fan,
Yeah,
like it's miserable. Like that sucks. That sucks. But yeah, I do think that a lot. I'm like, you know what? Take gobble them all up. Who cares? At that point, who cares? Doesn't matter. You can only have 26 players.
right.
Fine, make them all superstars. It doesn't matter. Cubs will play them 6 times a year, and then they'll figure it out in the postseason. It was always going to come down to that anyway.
Yep.
So, okay. Let's segue to some Bregman stuff because this was making me think about the fact that when I saw the news was breaking, I immediately thought about how we'd had conversations before, and I've written this throughout the offseason, that the way I could foresee the Bregman pursuit playing out was that ultimately, because there were all these rumors and reports that he was going to get a bigger deal than he got last year and in real value. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because he's a year older and he was injured last year and da-da-da-da. And so I was like, what's going to happen is he's going to get a deal that is, on its face, it's like, he got more years, he got more guarantee, he got a higher AV, all that. And then it's going to come out later, like, oh, but by the way, there's a ton of deferrals. It's actually much lower. It's not quite as exciting. And I said, for that reason, that's how I know it won't be the Cubs. The Cubs are not, that's the kind of situation it's going to be. And therefore the Cubs are not going to get him. And Lordy, when I saw that report and I saw the deal, and I knew as soon as I saw the numbers, I was like, oh yeah, that's going to have huge deferrals in it. I was like, holy crap. I've never been so happy to be wrong, because 2 reasons. One, I was happy the Cubs got Bregman anyway. Okay. That was, they wanted him. I wanted him. Great. But it signaled to me, and I was very glad to hear Jed Hoyer discuss this in the press conference, that they have evolved their thinking on deferred compensation for significant free agents. And I know it's all, for us, it's like, duh. And
no, I hated that quote because what?
Didn't it sound like Jed had been working BizOps and ownership for a year to be like, guys?
Yes. Hold on. I don't want to interrupt your point, and I'm sorry. This was even more infuriating to me because in the deepest recesses of my brain before that comment, I was going, they probably just are fine with deferrals, and it just hasn't happened. That was a confirmation that they were like, no, you can't do deferrals. And then we talked about it, and now we can. What did you talk about?
I wonder if missing Bregman last year specifically, and then being able to get him this year specifically, was for whomever. We'll get to that. Not casting any aspersions without knowledge.
I am.
But that was the turning point. It was like, and I do wonder to what extent Jed was like, man, I've got the perfect example now to say, look, we missed him last year because of this. And then look what happened to us this season. We had a great year, but maybe we were just a little bit short. Let's not do that again. And when we discussed this before, we said, and I stand by it, there could be some reason behind the scenes, some accounting, some financial, some bank loan things. There could be some covenants on something.
Save it for an article. We're on the mic right now.
We're on the mic. You just got to fire. There could be a reason. We don't know that. We've never been told. We've never found out. So because of that, I was just relieved. I take your point, but I was just relieved that Jed essentially was like, that my feeling in seeing the Bregman signing was confirmed, that, finally we can think about these things differently. It doesn't mean that the Cubs are going to become the Dodgers. It doesn't mean they're going to become even the Phillies, God willing. But, it does mean that I no longer have to think, if player X gets this kind of deal, well, the Cubs aren't going to land him, period, because they don't sign those type of deals. So that whole part of it was very heartening to me.
Something that I think is like a sort of disingenuous reaction to this sometimes, and I understand why he does this because he's not wrong, but I feel like I'm missing the connection. Is Bruce Levine will sometimes say like, Cubs were never categorically against deferrals. They're still going to pay Jason Hayward. It's like they're paying him like $1 million or $2 million. Like it's not the same thing.
I think they deferred $10 million of Hayward total.
Like that's not the same thing. I don't think. But whatever. And okay, I don't know. So you might have woken up after we knew that there was deferrals in the Bregman contract. Was
deferrals?
That
Yes,
out?
but volume not. We wrote about it separately. I can't remember.
Okay, well, so I'm laughing at myself because this was me going, okay, that was my fandom shone through a little too hard there, because I was like 35 million a year, whatever, sounds great. And it's like it's actually like 5 million a year less than that, and I was okay with it at the higher price because I was just like, yeah, do it. So that was, I'm just trying to say that out loud to hold myself accountable, because I was like, he's here's the other thing that I'm learning in this moment is that every player individually doesn't, Jed Hoyer will not agree with this, I don't think, but how I am interpreting some stuff about how this works. I don't think every player needs to be like exactly precisely worth exactly precisely what you're paying him. It's more of a big picture thing. And the Cubs like needed Alex Bregman, had the payroll space for Alex Bregman. And so like, okay, they're paying him something that equates to like 30 or 31. Maybe he's worth 27 or 28 or, it's like, whatever though, you have some young players that are not making a lot of money and you have a ton of money coming off the books. It's a luxury to give him the extra 4 or 5 million a year for 5 years that you take when you can take it. And I'm trying to like remember that in certain ways, just because it can work both directions, And so I guess I'm just saying, it's like when you have Michael Busch, PCA, Miguel Amaya, Matt Shaw, Nico Horner not making that much money, and Cade Horton, maybe Jackson Wiggins coming, it's like you have a lot of cheaper players, so you can afford to go bigger on someone that isn't necessarily worth that in isolation. But it's like, but if you say your infield costs this much or your position player, then the whole picture is like, well, yeah, that's how much this amount of wins needs to be able to cost us this year, or can maximally cost us this year. I don't know if I'm even fully getting that point across, but do you have any thought about that?
Yeah, you're teeing up an interesting point, which is that, if the Cubs if they had a bunch of young guys coming through at the right time and there was a Bregman on the market and they're like, but he's not worth, the price he's going to get in our internal models, so we're going to pass. And then they run out a payroll of like 110 million or whatever. It's not like they're booking that $100 million and saving it for another year when they're going to have a $320 million payroll. So Another way to think about this point is like just sort of business budgetary game theory. It's like, if you got a budget, you better use it because you're going to lose it the next year. And so because of the structure of the roster, there was not just more flexibility to sign a Bregman to this deal, but arguably a desirability. They would disagree with this, but like to get some money on the books for the future years. Like it's almost like a good thing to raise that, to ensure that you're not going to have these huge gaps where like you can't find the right pricey veteran player to come in and supplement
someone else.
And then you have to, exactly. The other thing I would add is what I didn't appreciate in my many diatribes about what Bregman was going to cost this offseason, about the difference between, what's the difference between last offseason and this offseason. The qualifying offer was it, and it's only worth about 10-15 million in cost, and he's a year older and he had the quad injury and etc. So like my mental math was, he should get like, longer deal, because that was the whole point, but it's going to be a lower AAV. And I was correct about that stuff. But a thing I didn't appreciate that I think makes the deals he got pretty comparable, despite being a year older, depends on how you think about the value of opt-outs and whatever, is having gone to the Red Sox. So he spent his whole career with the Astros, and we would hear for years on the outside what a great teammate he is, what a good leader he is, all these kinds of things. But by going to another organization and it almost getting explosively louder. Just the impact he had on younger players and the way he is. It's almost like putting up a bigger season on the field because it proves like, oh, okay, it wasn't just a Houston story. It's like, that's really who this guy is.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, listen, the Cubs were competing with the Red Sox for Bregman, but there's a lot of relationships between the Cubs front office and the Red Sox front office. And I'm sure at some level throughout the year, the Cubs were getting back signals that like, oh, the Red Sox are really appreciating this guy. And so I think that there's value there that hopefully we're going to see manifested in myriad small ways throughout this year and the next 5.
Okay, let's talk about the Red Sox for a little bit, just because I felt so bad. There has never been a more kindred spirit moment than the Red Sox finishing second on Alex Bregman by failure of not doing some small extra thing. But I also think, and so maybe I should look in a mirror sometimes, that Red Sox fans are being like a little unfair to not ownership, to like Craig Breslow, because like they didn't have, before signing Ranger Suarez, obviously that changes a lot, but they had traded for Sonny Gray and for Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
And not only are those two good players,
bunch of other trades too, smaller, a ton actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But those are two big players you're adding, a legitimate starting pitcher. I think Sonny Gray is still going to be good. Yeah. And Wilson Contreras is still a good hitter, and both are making real money.
Yeah.
It was a completely disingenuous argument to say they have added no free agents. It's like, is signing a free agent more important than adding a good player? Like, I don't know. And now listen, there is the argument that it's like, well, if you sign good players, you don't have to trade away talent to get, like, that is fair. Like, you could keep your talent, but they weren't doing nothing. And I was having a really hard time squaring those two things together. Did you partake? I mean, not partake, but like,
no, I mean, I didn't, but only because, listen, that's the kind of thing that it just you can use it to confirm your priors. If you're a Red Sox fan who's chapped about whatever, you can be like, see, and they haven't even spent a dime in free agency. Right. Or if you're a Yankees fan or whatever, you can LOL, they haven't spent anything in free agency. So you see it because everybody wants a piece of it. And the only people who are going to be like, now, wait a minute, are either weirdos like us or the Red Sox front office.
Right.
And so I think,
but I don't know. Here's the flip. I want to play the flip side of this because I also want to say this. So first of all, Cubs got a little lucky in this case. It seemed like, equal offers. He might have gone back to Boston.
It does kind of feel that way. Yep.
Right.
Yep. No slight to the Cubs, no slight to Bregman or Scott Boras or anyone. It did feel like, I think he was happy with the Red Sox, and so would have gone back happily.
And so then following that up, so the Cubs offer was 175 with deferrals. The Red Sox was
and a no trade.
Red Sox was 165 with some meaning of deferrals too, without a no trade.
More deferrals apparently.
Okay. Oh, even more deferrals and 10 million less.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So that colors what I'm about to say a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, if the no trade clause, I really love the way Jed Hoyer has evolved on this. I think 10 years ago, when we were so stuck on, really 12 years ago, like you sign a guy, then you need to have the flexibility to trade him, to rebuild and restock him. Just give him the no trade if that's what it takes to, and the Cubs give out a ton of no trade clauses.
Now they do. Yes.
Ian Happ, Seiya Suzuki, Shota Imanaga.
Jameson Taillon has a limited no trade. It's like,
I think it's like, first of all, that doesn't mean you cannot trade guys.
It just dings value. It just,
but they can waive it. You can,
but I just
ask him.
You don't have it. Wilson Contreras and Sonny Gray, great examples. Both had no trade clauses. Were willing to go to Boston. but I bet you the Cardinals got less in those deals than if they had been able to market those guys to 29 teams instead of 3.
Yeah, possibly, but also possibly, actually, definitely 29 teams did not want Wilson Contreras.
No.
Maybe 5. And so
yeah,
they got
I mean,
eliminated
no.
3.
It varies by the player and the amount of money involved and those things.
I guess what I'm just getting at is like, you know, obviously the deferrals and the less money makes a big difference. But like, it sounded also like Bregman was like, well, no, I just moved and I don't want to move again. It's like, so I wanted it. It's like,
yeah,
give it to him. Like, that's where you're drawing the line, the no trade clause, because in 4 years when he is not good, so not good that you want to trade him so that he's going to be expensive and not good. You want to be able to trade him for nothing that you're going to get in return for that. That's what you're preserving, the ability to get like some A-ball pitcher in 3 years who in 5 years might be a good reliever. Like, what is the thinking?
And there's also something to be said, especially for a player like Bregman and your own organization, that there's some kind of value in the messaging of being like, yeah, and we gave this guy a no trade clause because he's here to be committed with us for years, and he's going to care about PCA getting better. He's going to care about what happens with this guy. And like, that's all soft stuff. It's all soft factors that like we could debate to the ends of the earth, how much actual value there is there. But I think it's probably not 0. And, I think I appreciate too, like you said, the willingness now to look at no trade provisions. And I bet you the way they would frame it is they saw a market inefficiency there. I bet you they said, well, we see those as worth like $5 million and the market's treating them as worth 20. And so we'll just offer them like candy and get our guys. And so
I think listen, it's like, would the Cubs have loved the ability to trade Ian Happ at some, maybe, but like, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah. How much worse for the wear are they that they couldn't?
No. Yeah. So let's switch because we're already at 41 minutes. Okay. This week's transaction corner is brought to you by Feldco, the home renewal experts. Bleacher Nation is proud to partner with Feldco. For almost 50 years, Feldco has been transforming Chicagoland homes with their windows. Chicagoland, by the way, includes Northwest Indiana. That's a little Bears reference. With their windows, siding, doors, and roofing. Feldco is family owned and prides themselves on delighting their customers. With products made in the U.S. and designed specifically for the Midwest, Feldco offers the perfect balance of beauty and energy efficiency. Thank you, Felco, for sponsoring this segment of the Bleacher Nation Cubs podcast. And by the way, I'm going to say this now since we always wait till the end, and I'm fearful that you guys just don't listen to that part. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please review it. Leave us 5 stars. It helps, raise profile, helps get us more sponsors, which will help keep us going into the future. Yeah. So please take that seriously. Just go do it right now. You're on your phone. You're at a red light. It's fine. Just not to undersell that last part, that like, if you like this pod and any podcast you listen to or watch on YouTube, like subscribe, like it, share it, do those things, because it makes it incrementally more likely that podcast will live on as long as you enjoy it. So thanks for folks who've done that and those who've told their friends to do it. So yeah, the transaction thing is it's not quite a 2-parter, but I just don't want to belabor half of this because it's been the rumor for like 2 weeks. You knew we had to, Michael's giving me the look because we had to talk about this. Okay. So there have been rumors about Nico Hoerner for a few weeks now. And it was sort of like, well, I guess if they were to land Alex Bregman, maybe they'd have to at least talk about it, blah, blah. Well, the Bregman thing happened. So, okay. Question then is, and then the second part is obviously the other implicated player in this maneuvering is there any version of a trade that stays on the right side of realistic that you would be interested in the Cubs pursuing for Nico Hoerner? Because obviously we could all agree. I think 99% of us would agree if there's some unrealistic trade, well, sure, go, great. But is it really reasonable? And we would set the return on a Nico trade at something a little less than the Cubs gave up for Kyle Tucker last year. I think that's, if you really compare, it's actually not that unreasonable. The salaries, the war in the previous year. Gotta be less.
Nico blew away Tucker's WAR this year.
I know, but so much
WAR.
of his WAR is predicated on defense, which people don't pay as much
defense
for.
Defense doesn't count. They don't. You don't need defense. That doesn't.
Of course it counts.
I'm just kidding.
You
but anyway,
know
that's why
true.
I said less. That's why I said less. But I think it's probably not as much less as some people think. Is there a version that you would consider it all? And then if not, what about Matt Shaw?
Yeah. Okay. I do. I'm going to answer that. And I want to add a little context too. Here's what's making this especially hard. Nico Hoerner just came off his career best year. Okay. By far. Especially, and I don't think we talk about this enough. In fact, I am now motivated, I feel like, to write this up if I haven't already. Does everyone realize how much better of a hitter Nico Hoerner was in the second half of last year? He was a 430 slug guy in the second half. That is categorically a different player than we think of when we think of Nico Hoerner. The first half of the season was regular Nico Hoerner. Okay. The second half was a different guy. Okay. If that's going to keep up, which I mean, it could, then you can't trade him like at all. Like that's just a totally different thing to slug 430 or to slug 390. You know, like that's a big difference when you're otherwise already hitting 300.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
yep.
in either scenario. So I really think that we need to think about that. 1, 2, Nico Hoerner is the most popular Cub. Like, you know, obviously like there's at least most beloved. He feels like most beloved Cub right now, you know? Okay. For reasons that are personal in nature, we're not going to talk about. Matt Shaw is at a medium low level of popularity at the moment because he had some opinions this year that were political and that was divisive. I'm just going to leave it there so that none of us get.
Well, to be sure, neither Michael nor I are commenting on the substance of any of that, saying only that in some corners of Cubs fandom, Matt Shaw is not as beloved as Nico Hoerner right now, in part because of off-field stuff.
Again, I'm being careful, but it's like, is that really that debatable? Of course that's going on. You could say that it shouldn't be, but that's what's happening. Right. It just is. That's just an observation. So, and then on top of that, Matt Shaw had a weak first half, got sent down, came back up, had a hot stretch, but then didn't really finish that strong. Has good defense, has the upside, is young. Okay. If some of those factors were different, this would be a no-brainer. If Nico Hoerner had a typical year, if Matt Shaw was a little bit better, if Nico was a little less popular, if Matt Shaw was a little more popular, we'd be like, well, yeah, of course you consider this because you have a great option in second base backup in Matt Shaw. And Nico is about to be a free agent. He makes $12 million. You could get a ton for him in return, yada, 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 yada. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I could see a different world where this makes a lot of sense. But in this world, it's like, why don't we just try to be our best versions of ourselves in 2026? And I think that likely includes Nico Hoerner on the team. And to his credit, Matt Shaw on the team also improving the bench dramatically and then providing credible replacement options at third, short, and second by way of Nico going to short, Shaw going to second in the version of Dansby Swanson getting hurt or needing rest or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like there can be a much more aggressive rotation that still features a lot of Matt Shaw. And I think that version of this Cubs team is better than in 2026 than the trading Nico version. And I think that is the team the Cubs should be building, even if, you know, there's some other version where you trade Nico and then 2027 and beyond is better. So does that make sense? Did I answer?
Yes, that is all. It all depends a lot on how you weight 2026. I'm just checking something because I just got a text. Yep. Okay. So this affects this conversation, and then we're going to bolt because we got to cover this. Bo Bichette to the Mets.
Oh my God.
So there's their response to Kyle Tucker. And what's notable about that, a lot of people thought he was maybe going to the Phillies. But the other interested teams, of course, Red Sox, a number of others. Do you know where Nico Hoerner and Matt Shaw weren't going to get traded to? The Mets. Definitely not. And so you could argue that the markets for them just ticked up just a little bit. But We'll get on
Wait,
that at bleachernation.com.
I know we got to jump on this, but we'll spend 2 more minutes because here's one version of the trade that I think is unrealistic, but I had tweeted out, this is the first name I'm going to mention is not the point. It was the illustrative point, was like, sure, if the Tigers want to trade us Tariq Skubal for Nico Horner, great. We'll do it. Cause and Tim Durkees of MLB Trade Rumors was like, well, that's not going to happen. But what about someone like Mason Miller? And it's like, okay, here's one version.
That also would not happen. Because why would the Padres do that? But
no, not Mason Miller specifically. There's some elite closer out there that I'm not thinking of that has 3 years of control. 2 years of control. He's an elite closer, doesn't make a ton. And then maybe you could say, we're not reducing our 2026 expected thing and we're extending that's the version of it that I think maybe, but I don't see that happening. And I only kind of like it. So just keep him, I think, play it safe and try to be really good next year.
Yeah. I would say the version of a trade that swaps out Horner for other 2026 value, I have no interest in that whatsoever. And I know that's maybe counterintuitive to folks, but it's like, I already like the 2026 team as is. So if you're going to monkey around with trying to recalibrate value, then you better get crazy tons of long-term value. But even that, it's just, I don't know, it's hard for me to see it a realistic deal.
Well, especially because you need to be, Nico only has 1 year. So the teams that you're trading with have to be teams that want him for 2026. Sure. So they have to be giving up duplicative value themselves to make this make sense.
And there are some fits out there. The Red Sox do have now an overload of really interesting young pitching.
Those pitchers.
It's hard. Those
actually good. When those names are mentioned, I was like,
I know. I saw that it was Ken Rosenthal's piece and he actually dropped those names. I'm like, oh, I didn't think we were talking about those guys.
Like legitimate AAA, AAA,
they're
top 100, top 50.
It's like getting another Cade Horton. Like, would you trade Nico Horton for another Cade Horton? And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I would.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
We're not totally crazy.
So, okay, that's that. We're going to get on.
Thank you, Ankin Law.
Yeah. I was going to get it. 312-6 million. Injury Law Made Personal, Ankin Law. Thank you to our sponsors there. And thank you to all you listeners. He's Michael. I'm Brett. Read our stuff at Bleacher Nation. And we will talk to you again soon here on the BN Cubs podcast. See ya.
Bye.